Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Tawdry Tabletop. Today I'm here to talk to you about a topic which can be somewhat controversial within the board gaming scene, and that is app-based board games. Okay, so we'll go through what they are, a few examples, and why I like them and I think they are good. Okay, so first of all,
it's because they're great.
What are app-based board games? Well, they are what they sound like. They are basically a board game in which either mobile phone or computer app is used in order to simulate all of or part of the game. Okay, so that's the criteria we are using. So if you need to download an app in order to play the game, or to have the game work, I would call it an app-based game. Okay, so I've got three examples here. The first one is Chronicles of Crime, which is a crime-solving detective game in which you and the other players use QR codes and the app to solve mysteries by looking over evidence, going places, talking to people, and then at the end you have to solve the crime, who'd done it. Okay, we've also got XCOM, the board game. So for those of you who have played the video games, this is a board game rendition. This uses a app in order to simulate things happening on the board and also to act as a timer. So in this game you play in different roles who are in charge of different aspects of the XCOM defense against the aliens, and you have to sort of manage resources, manage units, and try and defend Earth. Very stressful.
Very, very, very stressful.
Very stressful.
I'm a terrible teammate in this game.
But very fun. Okay, and we also have, and since it is basically the 20th anniversary of The Lord of the Rings, it feels very topical or very timely, The Lord of the Rings Journeys in Middle-earth. Okay, so this again is a cooperative board game in which you and the players go on adventures in Middle-earth, and you defeat evil, you travel around, you go for a campaign, and the app basically
It's
reacts.
like Game Master.
It's almost like an RPG where the app is the game master, in which it tells you where to move enemies, where to spawn certain things, where to put tiles and things like that.
And gives you choices.
And gives you choices as well on certain things, and how to do tests. So those are just a few examples. There's many more. There's also games like Detective. It's quite common in sort of detective games to have some form of app nowadays because it does give you a bit more interactivity. So why do people dislike them, first of all? Well, people dislike them because naturally it takes away from the board. So if you're looking at the app, of course that's taking time away from the board. It means you have to download something on your phone and your computer. It has to sit there. It can maybe distract people, especially if you're using a phone, you're getting notifications coming up. But that's a slight detraction. But personally, I think they are a positive, and here's why. So if we look at our first example, okay, of Chronicles of Crime, so what's the benefit to using an app for this? Well, the benefit is simply it allows the game to be a lot more dynamic. Because if you've ever played a more traditional detective board game like Sherlock Holmes, what's it called? Sherlock Holmes?
Want me to look it out? Consulting Detective?
Consulting Detective,
There we go.
yeah. So if you've ever played a game like that, it's a lot more restricted in terms of what they can do. And traditionally, you're given like a book for each case, where you have to basically go to a particular number and then read what happens. And of course, the temptation at that point becomes, well, I'm just going to go ahead in the book to figure out what happens or to figure out certain points. Whereas the way it works for this is that there are QR codes on certain things. For example, here, this is the criminologist.
So these are our experts.
These are your experts, but also all of the elements in terms of evidence also have QR codes. So the way it works is, for example, food. So if you see something in a crime scene,
because you can, through your phone, look at the crime scene and look for clues.
Yep, you can look for clues. So you see some food, you scan that, and it gives you a description. And what this means is that the game can be a lot more dynamic. Okay, it doesn't need to include a book, which limits, obviously, how many cases you can do in the game. More cases are always being created for Chronicles of Crime. Yeah, there's actually a maker you can use if you're interested in doing it yourself.
And as professional edgelords, we have actually completed the one by the person who's written Vampires the
Yes,
Masquerade.
we did do White Wolf, Vampire the Masquerade. And of course they do bring out expansions with different locations based around certain themes. To add new locations, new people, new evidence, things like that. But in terms of the dynamism and the sort of expansiveness, I think the apps do offer a lot more than, you know, just the standard detective games. And if you are interested, I would definitely pick up Chronicles of Crime. It's a very interesting game. Very simple to play. You don't need to know really how to play any board game. If you've never played a board game before in your life and you want to get into playing one, I would say this is an absolute, you know, first choice. Go and get it. You will not be bored. You know, it is a great introduction. So that's first of all Chronicles of Crime. Now let's talk about XCOM. So what does the app for XCOM do that a board game itself can't do? Now I did say that the app has a timer. Now if you play this as you should, unlike how we play it because we're losers.
We try and play well, but it's usually because of me that we hit that pause button.
Yes. So you're not meant to pause, you're basically meant to do your actions within set time limits, which depending on the difficulty get shorter and shorter. So if you're playing in expert mode, you've maybe got like 15 seconds to react to putting down, you know, planes to target UFOs, or put soldiers down to, you know, fight the aliens. And it really, if you've played the XCOM games, you do know it's very based around like luck and statistics and RNG, and the app simulates that for you as close as you can get to the video game before you're just playing the video game. And it really does get that experience where you end up 4 people playing the game, you're all going to be shouting at each other going, why? That's too much money you're spending on research or on interceptors or soldiers, we don't have the budget!
And panic keeps going up.
And
panic?
Panic between the different continents are all funding XCOM and the aliens are attacking it. It really brings in that not paranoia, but that sort
You
of
do
panic.
get a bit paranoid that everyone is
Paranoid.
against you.
Yes. So that's, again, another advantage, the sort of the speed that you cannot get.
Immersion as well.
And the immersion that you cannot simply get with just a normal board game. Because, you know, if you're not having something third party to kind of measure what you're doing, you are a bit more likely to take it a bit more relaxed. Whereas obviously with an app, it's a bit harder to do that. And then with the Lord of the Rings, the way it's designed is that there are many tiles, characters, items, and those are all generated dynamically to create new maps. So if you replay the same level, it's not going to feel the exact same because it will use a certain amount of tiles to recreate the level. So again, it can be, you know, dynamic, it can be a bit more interactive. It does take some of the heavy lifting off you in terms of keeping track of things. Because for those of you who have ever played Gloomhaven, you do know how big the table can get in terms of tokens and cards, and whereas this does keep it a bit more compact.
I think as well it's a good way of getting your friends into RPGs if they're not quite ready to take that full step forward. It leads them, it's choices, it's telling, do you want to do this or do you want to do that, and it starts them on that journey, so it's a good way to slowly manipulate your friends.
Absolutely, and again it's a good introduction, so if you're trying to introduce someone who's never played a board game before in their lives, then something like Journeys to Middle-earth is a great way to do it because, you know, they know Lord of the Rings, they've either seen the movies or they haven't, but, you know, they know the name, they know the characters. You can come in, you can say, right, okay, we're going to play this. You don't need to know the rules, you know, I'll tell you everything you need to know. The app will keep track of things and we can just play and have fun. It does take away a lot of that kind of sort of groundwork in terms of the preparation. I mean, and there are disadvantages in that it can feel like you're really relying on the app. You are waiting a lot of the time in some of these games, particularly something like this, in between turns, for things to get entered into the app or for it to tell you where to put things. But, you know, I do think it just offers you more options, and that's what you want in a board game. You want a game that you can play more times, because obviously you pay however much you pay for it and you want to get your money's worth. So it's a bit more dynamic, a bit more interesting, and I would absolutely say if you have ever hesitated to get a game because it has an app, I would highly recommend picking one up and just giving it a shot. You may surprise yourself with how much you actually do enjoy it. because I have found with these games in particular, it has been an absolutely, great fun time.
It's also, they're so different what they do with the app. It's great to see just the versatility.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what do you think about app-based board games? Do you think they are a positive or a negative? Let us know in the comments below, and we'll see how we go on. Have an absolutely fantastic day. Goodbye.
Bye.